Hello everyone, welcome back to another Koi City STL video. My name is CJ, and in today's video, I'll be discussing patio ponds, or container ponds. I wanted to begin by sharing a short story with you. While I was in the process of creating this video, I was rushing to complete it, and I decided not to write a script for it. I just thought that I could ad-lib the entire thing, but I quickly realized, after about an hour and a half of doing take after take, that rushing this video was the wrong decision, and instead it was worth the time to put in effort and actually write out a script for this video. I thought it was very ironic that I was rushing through this video that was meant to help people not rush into a pond build all at once. That's just to say that I've made my fair share of mistakes, and that I understand that although it might be tempting to rush into a project, that it is important that you take time to understand what exactly you're doing so that you can have the maximum amount of success possible. And I hope that this video does just that. So, without further ado, let's get into what it takes to start up a patio pond. I'll begin by defining what I consider to be a patio pond. To me, a patio pond is typically a pond that is 30 gallons or less. That is not to say that patio ponds have to be that size. They can certainly be a lot larger than that, but from what I've observed, that is the most common pond size that beginners tend to start with. You certainly have plenty of options when you limit yourself to that pond size range. The most common kinds of patio ponds you'll see are ponds that are made out of rigid plastic material. These can be agricultural stock tanks from farm stores or large planter pots and storage bins from big box hardware stores. There's also preformed plastic ponds designed specifically for this use case. And if that is available to you, I would highly suggest opting for that kind of plastic container. However, if you want to use a different kind of container, be sure to note what material that planter is made out of for that container. For example, a container that's made out of galvanized metal can potentially cause water quality problems. If you're unsure if the container you're going to use is safe for a pond habitat, the easiest solution is to line the container with a plastic pond liner. Note that pond liners can be expensive and somewhat challenging to work with if it's your first time building a pond, so ideally choosing a plastic container from the very start may be your best option. There's also two other significant considerations before placing your patio pond at your desired location. Ideally, the location you're choosing should have a power outlet nearby, and I'll explain why in a different section. The second consideration is determining how much sunlight your chosen location will get each day. If the location is in direct sunlight for the entire day, then there is a great potential for water to become too warm, which can cause a number of different problems. I would recommend placing your patio pond in an area that gets some direct sunlight, but also gets a few hours of shade. Unfortunately, there's no general rule I can give you, because everybody's patio pond is different, and there's a number of different factors that can change the outcomes. The smaller the patio pond size is, the more susceptible the pond is to rapid temperature swings. There is also some additional hardware that you'll need. There needs to be a system in the pond that helps circulate water. This is especially important if you plan to add fish to your patio pond. There are two main methods to achieve this. The first method is to use a submersible pond pump that's the appropriate size for your pond. The pond pump will circulate water throughout the pond and help oxygenate the water, greatly improving the environment for your fish. The second method is to use an air pump or an aerator. The air pump connects to small tubing that runs into your pond and is typically connected to an air stone or an air diffuser. This creates a lot of bubbles to help oxygenate and circulate the water throughout your pond. I personally use an air pump on the majority of my patio ponds because it is simple, relatively inexpensive, and is very effective. It's also important to note that each application can also be connected to a filtration system. The filtration or filter you choose for your patio pond is very important. These devices will help maintain good water quality as well as ensure your fish remain healthy. It is equally important to select the appropriate sized filter for your pond. For a patio pond, you likely do not need a large filter. A small waterfall filter or a pond filter box will be just fine if you've chosen to use a submersible pond pump. Otherwise, a sponge filter powered by an air pump is also a great choice. That's the filtration that I use on all of my patio ponds. This is a good time to briefly discuss water quality and how it relates to the nitrogen cycle. I'm not going to go very in depth here, but what you need to know is that I would advise not adding fish to your pond immediately after you finish setting it up. I know that is certainly a test of patience, but it's for a very good reason. A new pond needs time to establish itself and to create a sustainable ecosystem. Generally, I would say you should let your pond age for a minimum of 4 to 5 weeks, or ideally 5 to 6 weeks. I would also strongly recommend searching videos that thoroughly explain the nitrogen cycle in great detail, as this will help you avoid many common problems. While we're discussing pond water, there is also the subject of pond chemicals. In my view, the main pond chemical that you should familiarize yourself with is water conditioner. Water conditioner is required because it makes tap water safe for fish. If you fill your patio pond with tap water and do not add water conditioner, your fish will not survive for very long. This is due to chlorine and other harmful toxins in tap water. Once you've completed your pond and filled it with water, add the appropriate amount of water conditioner. This process should be repeated every time you add tap water to your patio pond, although the dosage of water conditioner you will need will depend on how much water you're adding. As for other pond chemicals, I tend not to use them, and I've never used them in any of my patio ponds. Starting your patio pond correctly from the beginning ensures that you keep problems and maintenance to a minimum. We've now reached the most enjoyable aspect of building your patio pond, and that is deciding what kinds of plants and fish to stock the pond with. I'll begin with plants. There are tons of different aquatic and semi-aquatic plants that can thrive in your pond, from plants like anacris and hornwort that are completely submerged in the water, to plants like water lilies and lotus that have their roots submerged in the water, but their leaves rest on the water's surface and have long stems that reach the water entirely. There are also floating plants like water lettuce and water hyacinth that simply float on the surface of the pond. I encourage you to visit your local pond store to see all these plant varieties for yourself. Adding pond plants not only adds beauty and elegance to your pond, but the pond plants will help keep the water clean by providing natural filtration. Aside from pond plants, fish are also a main focal point of your pond. I've had many people ask if fish such as goldfish and koi can live in a patio pond environment. The answer is complicated. I would certainly advise against putting koi or even multiple koi in a pond that's 30 gallons or less. The same can be said for goldfish. Although your pond may be able to support 2 to 3 small goldfish in the beginning, they will inevitably outgrow their environment. The same goes for koi fish. It is a misconception that they will only grow to the size of the pond they're in. The reality is that most goldfish and koi do not live long enough to reach their maximum size because they're either kept in very poor water conditions or succumb to parasites or diseases that may or may not be caused by poor pond management. This is not to say that there are no patio ponds that are suitable for goldfish and koi. Large patio ponds that are 100, 150, or even 300 gallons are much more accommodating to these large species of fish. Perhaps in a future video I will discuss those kinds of ponds, but for now I'll mention what kinds of small fish are good for patio ponds specifically. I personally have experience with keeping rice fish, mosquito fish, and snails in patio ponds. These species remain small throughout their whole life and can tolerate outdoor conditions that other nanofish species cannot. Smaller species of fish will be much easier to manage and can be just as enjoyable as raising large fish. Those are the only species I've had experience with, and there are certainly many others that can thrive in a patio pond environment. I encourage you to seek out other patio pond videos to draw inspiration and gain insight as to what kind of fish can thrive in your climate. I hope that this video was able to help you start a patio pond of your own. I know that all this information, all at once, can be very overwhelming and intimidating, but the more you prepare and understand the basics, the easier it will be to have success. And just by you watching this video and videos like it, it should be a sign that you're already on the right track. Fish keeping is such a wonderful and enjoyable hobby, and a patio pond is one of the easiest ways to start it. I wish you great success in building your patio pond. As always, I'll have links to all of our social media in the description box down below. Please feel free to leave a comment or a question in the comments section. Check out our channel for more videos. My name is CJ with Koi City STL, and thank you very much for watching.